Today I'm going to actually have a interesting topic, call it the birth of a salesman. I'm going to actually first narrate the story of how I became a salesman. I never thought I would. It was 96, way back when we got started. And you have to remember, the only experience I had, I wrote C++ code. That was all the experience I had. And this is exact areas in which I was writing code. Your cell phone, the power optimization, how to optimize the power. So, which is an enduring topic. 20 years ago, it was a topic, and it still is an important topic. And then you have this GPS algorithms. So that was my code. That's my only experience, professional experience, as I say. And how do I find myself as a salesman? How do I do it? And it turns out all my other co-founders were also exactly like me. C, Java, C++, all the same experience. And we had this product. We still actually sell this, proudly sell this. This is a tool for network vendors, and the customers happen to be all located here in Silicon Valley. And that's the target market. Well, I was the one living closest to Silicon Valley, or actually San Diego. But in our circle, that's close enough, right? And the other guys were sitting in India and other places. There's one of our founders was in New Jersey. San Diego is the closest, right? It's all in the same general location. So by default, I become the business guy. I have to go actually make the sales calls. So the first thing I did, set up a CRM system. No. I didn't know what a CRM was then, okay? Leads, potentials, opportunities, forecasts. No. That's not what you do. Or even a formal sales process. Like actually, you go through some rigorous process. Well, I didn't know anything about all those processes, so no. Actually, I just printed up a business card. That's the first thing I did. This is what it looks like. This is the title I gave myself. VP of Marketing and Business Development. I actually thought that sounded like business guy. That's what I thought. So now, nobody can call yourself anything. So this is what I called myself at that time. This was approximately how the business card looked, even the logo. You can see hand design logo. So my job was actually, there were people even downloading our software. We had a website, people download it, call them. And I moved here, for convenience I moved here, so I was living out of a small apartment, so I'd go meet them. So I had to figure out what they need. Over time I came to, you do this long enough, often enough, maybe after the 50th meeting, I started to figure out some truths about selling. Actually, it's not really truths about selling. It's truths about myself. I realized what I'm good at, what I'm really not good at. So as they say, discovery of selling is actually discovery of self. In fact, the truth is discovery of anything, any topic is ultimately a discovery of self. One thing I personally figured out, for me, the hard thing was not persuading that we actually had good technology, which we did. In fact, we are still selling those products profitably. Not in the Zoho brand, it's another one of our divisions, and we still sell those products. So we had good technology. That was almost 20 years ago. The hard thing was not convincing our customers we had good technology. The hard thing was actually asking for money. Those of you who are in sales, of course, you know this problem, right? How do you close? How do you go for the close? I'd say it's about as difficult as this problem. And even in sales, This is a problem. You have to handle rejection. I'm only talking about sales here, of course. Rejection, that's the key for any salesman to handle. So now let's go into more. What is really sales and marketing all about? We often think targets, metrics, quotas, numbers. That's what we make it. But as my own story illustrated, that's not how you start with. That's not the starting point of selling. Then what is the starting point? Why do we do these numbers first? Well, there is this whole school of, if you ever went to business school, how many of you have an MBA? Oh, it's a small number. So customers are in the real world. They teach you that what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. It's measurement. It's always about numbers. In fact, a lot of the tooling, a lot of the products are also around this, right? Our own products too. So why that fascination with numbers? Because that's what gives you a sense of being in control. You know where you're heading. So it is a good reason for relying on numbers. They help us keep track of progress. But before we talk about numbers, we have to master the art. There is an art to selling. Hopefully my personal story told you about this. As I said, mastery of selling is actually mastery of oneself. There is an art to selling. The art of selling. Not the science, the numbers, the measurement of selling, just the art of selling. What is that art of selling? It's really ultimately the art of persuasion. How to persuade someone of something. Ultimately to part with their money. That's really about selling, and it's the art of persuasion. If you dig deep about persuasion, you'll realize this is a very ancient classical art. This dude here is Aristotle. 2300, approximately 2400 years ago, he wrote entire books on the subject. The very first person in human civilization to think about this problem of persuasion, rhetoric, in a deep way. And here is the thing he came up with, is Aristotle's rhetorical triangle. So he classified into three distinct areas: Ethos, Pathos, and Logos. I had to learn how to pronounce these things, these Greek words. So, ethos, that is about credibility, trustworthiness, and competence. Now let's apply it to the sales context. A salesperson must first establish credibility. Why am I here? What right do I have to speak on this topic? To try to even persuade you on this topic, that credibility. That is the ethos. This is, Aristotle realized it 2300 years ago. That's the first thing, that you need credibility as the persuader. And the next comes the pathos. That is the emotion, empathy, passion, imagination. That's the pathos. And applied in the sales context, it is about empathizing, emotionally connecting with your audience. And that's very crucial in sales. As you know, the pathos is extremely important. So that is the second pillar, second leg of the triangle of the art of persuasion. And finally, logos, that is logic, reason, factual foundation you have to provide. Now, of course, ultimately in all selling, you have to have a reason. You have to provide a logical foundation. My product is better in these dimensions. It's better in price, better overall, better value. Because in the long run, people do come to rational decisions on these. In the short run, maybe there could be emotions, but in the long run, there is reason does prevail. But before we even go to persuade someone, we must believe. We must have that belief, in the foundation of belief in ourselves. So this brings up that word that I actually mention extremely often, maybe once a day, twice a day, conviction. Internally, that's what I talk about, conviction. And So our credibility as the person persuading comes from that conviction. So this is what, in this context, translated conviction. We believe in our product and our service. We believe it makes a difference for our customers. Or to even more broadly, we believe our existence makes a difference to our customers, to our market, to the world. Well, how many of us can say, first, our salespeople believe it? Do you have it? First, you have to have that conviction. This conviction I talked about. We believe in what we sell. We believe in our message. Do you have it? Well, in the beginning, when you get started in business, you always have this problem. How do you go find the conviction? It's not like we are born with convictions. Most of us are not. How do you find the conviction? I'm actually not going to answer it. There's some easy answers. If it's in politics, we can just go buy some conviction. They do it all the time. Unfortunately, in business, people watch their wallets a little more carefully than how they vote. So you do really need more conviction in business than in politics. That's my experience, at least. The best way to win business long term turns out to be conviction, having the conviction. So I talked about selling. Well, that's one part of the sales and marketing. Now let me talk about the art of marketing. Before I go, this is actually an XKCD cartoon. I'm wearing one. How many of you are wearing the Apple Watch here? So I already have it. And you know the famous reality distortion field Steve Jobs is famous for, where this man could just bend reality itself to his will. Apple still does this because, I wasn't wearing a watch until a couple of months ago. And I had not worn a watch for 15 years. I probably gave it up in sometime around 2000. And of course, now I started wearing a watch now. This is what I'm really worried about. Next year, I don't want to come to you with this. We talk about the power of marketing, reality distortion, make you bend reality to their will. The one company that does that better than anyone else in the world is Apple. So next year, maybe my smile won't be as crooked thanks to the eye braces. So come to marketing, people buy actually on emotion, but then they justify with facts later. That's really what happens. I'm purely speaking about sales and marketing here, right? But it's also true for love. People buy on emotion and then justify with facts, logic later. So marketing is really about creating that shared emotional experience, the Pathos in Aristotle terminology. And of course, on a solid foundation of reason, and that is the Logos. And finally, all done with absolute conviction. That is your ethos, where you establish credibility with the conviction. So you can see that again in marketing, we go back to the same triangle, Aristotle's triangle. Ethos, Pathos, and Logos. So now you can see why I would call this man the founder of sales and marketing. Because he's the man who actually taught us what really the art of rhetoric is. He provided the detailed explanation of the art of rhetoric, and which is, I consider to be the ultimate foundation of the art of sales and marketing. Because before the numbers, the tools, all that come in, you first have to understand the art behind it. So now, let's talk about our convictions. We're in this sales and marketing event, our convictions. For the last 4 or 5 years, we've actually been talking about this topic. We call it big data, small apps. That is the idea where we look at the Zoho cloud service and all the cloud as one giant database in the cloud. Then we provide you applications that are contextually relevant, contextually integrated to function on every one of your devices. That could be your desktop, it could be your smartphone, your tablet, and your watch. Actually, just 2 weeks ago, we launched 3 apps on Apple Watch. So that is the conviction, the vision of big data, small apps at work. Thank you.